So this is the second part of the message I started last week, and we're talking about how faith overcomes. Have you ever faced an obstacle in your life? Have you ever faced a challenge? Have you ever faced a problem, a difficulty? Well, we looked at a story from the Bible, someone who faced a wall, and we looked at some lessons we can learn, and I'll just review that real quick in a minute, and then we'll get into the second part. But first I want to tell you about some people who faced walls, who faced obstacles, and who overcame. Walt Disney, everybody knows Walt Disney? Walt Disney overcame poverty. How about Abraham Lincoln? Abraham Lincoln overcame chronic depression. Winston Churchill, he overcame a learning disability. Stephen Hawking, he overcame ALS. Franklin Delano Roosevelt overcame polio and paralysis. Helen Keller overcame, of course, loss of sight and hearing. Oprah Winfrey overcame childhood abuse. And Benjamin Franklin overcame poverty. Now, the truth is this. The truth is every great achievement in life, not just those, there are many, many more, every great achievement in life faces obstacles. Wouldn't you agree with that? I mean, we're going to face obstacles in life. So we might as well learn some things about that, learn some things about those obstacles, right? And we talked a couple weeks ago about a key, so I talked about a book that I read. It's called, Jamie gave it to me, Love, Miracles, Love, Faith, and Miracles, something like that, right? What was it? Huh? Love, Medicine, and Miracles. It was a good book. See, I remember that. Love, Medicine, and Miracles. And I was talking about, like in this book, the kind of, for me at least, an underpinning to this whole book was this idea that I said a couple weeks ago, and that's this. Faith is often the tipping point to a miracle. Faith is often the tipping point to a miracle. Let me tell you, I'm going to tell you something I did one time. I'm not real happy about what I did, but I was younger and pastoring and so forth, and so I told a story one time. As a matter of fact, I have it in my office, and I'm not bashing any faith or anything like that. So don't get that idea. As a matter of fact, I'm sorry that I even did this. But in the Roman Catholic Church, one of the things that they do is they, of course, I guess you buy it or whatever. There's a statue. I don't know who it is of, but if you want to sell your house, you take this statue and you bury it in the ground, and in front of your yard, and your house is supposed to sell. I don't know if anybody in Catholics, former Catholics. Yeah, so there's different. You have to do it the right way. So the story that I read was somebody who buried the statue in the ground and went to the priest and said, my house didn't sell. I said, well, tell me how you did it. He did it the wrong way, and so he did it the right way, and within a couple of weeks his house sold. And so for that person, they believes that the house sold because of that reason, right? You get what I'm saying? Now here's the thing. I told my friend Jeff that down in Florida, and I was kind of telling him this story, and he said, well, I believe that. And I was shocked. I said, really, you believe that? He goes, well, not in the sense that you're talking about, but if think about this for a minute. Here's what he said to me. If I take that statue and I bury it in the ground, and my house, I believe my house is going to sell because I buried it in the ground, right? Are you paying attention, Steve? This is important stuff. You're waving to people. Okay, pay attention. I know you're a friend. Say hi. How you doing? Good to see you. Family's back there. Okay. We all done? Everybody done? Okay. He said to me this. He said, if you thought your house was going to sell, what would you do? He said, you'd probably go clean your house up. You'd probably put balloons outside. You'd do all these things that help what? That help your house sell. And this is what I'm talking about. This idea of faith is often the tipping point to a miracle, right? The Bible talks about the only way to really please God is through faith, is through this, and faith we think of, especially with children, this belief, this almost a naivete, right? And so faith is an important component to this. And so in our story that we looked at, well, let me just, before I get into that, for those of you who haven't been here for the series or whatever, we're looking at a passage in the Bible in the book of Hebrews, which you don't know who the author is. Might be a man, might be a woman, we don't know. But this author was writing to people who, they started strong. You ever start something and start real strong? Yeah, you start real strong and you're excited about it, right? And so these believers started strong with their faith in Jesus, and Jesus said, he was crucified. He said, don't worry, I'm coming back, right? And so, after the resurrection, but I'm leaving, but I'm going to come back. So they were expecting him to come back like next Thursday, right? He's coming back, wait for him. And so they're super excited, and then he doesn't come Thursday, so I'm thinking maybe next week, maybe the next week, or maybe next month, maybe next year. And then it's decades, and so they get tired. They're tired of waiting. They're getting kind of just fatigued. And they're wanting to do what? They're wanting to give up. Have you been there? You've been there, right? You're trying, you're striving, you're struggling. How long do I have to endure this X, whatever X is? How long do I have to endure? In fact, I'm just going to quit. I'm just going to give up. Maybe that's you in the faith. Maybe somebody who's listening online, whether it's today or in weeks to come, you feel like, I just want to quit. I just want to give up. I've heard people say all the time too, I hate this. You need Jesus in your life, because when you get Jesus, everything's going to be fine. No, it's not. Sorry, I hate to burst your bubble. It's not going to be fine, right? It's going to be good, but it's not going to be without problems, without obstacles. Right? You have this something else that helps you get strength to get through these things. Anybody who's married knows this. It's not the good times in your marriage that strengthen your marriage. Isn't that true? Not the good times. It's the difficult times. The difficult times that you have, that you work through, that you overcome, right? That makes you stronger. And so obstacles need to be looked at in a different way. So you have these people who are thinking about quitting, because things have gotten worse. They've gotten worse. And so this writer, long after, this is probably 60 years after, 40 to 60, we don't really know for sure, but he writes this letter to these people who are thinking about quitting. And what he does, and what we've been doing in Hebrews, is we've been looking at these stories that these Jewish followers of Jesus would have known. They would have known all these stories. And so the story we looked at last week was the story of Joshua. How God comes and talks to Joshua, and he tells Joshua they're going to go into the promised land of Canaan. He says, and you're going to go in, but they face Jericho. Jericho's this walled city. How are they going to do this? And so God, in the story, God says, march around the city, gives them this whole layout, march around the city 7 times, put the priests out front, blow trumpets, and that's how you're going to do it. What do you mean, no weapons, no nothing? Yeah. And so he's like, I don't know about this, right? I mean, how would you feel? I'd be like, oh, that's a wacko idea. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to my people. I'm not going to tell them that, right? But what he does, he has faith. He has faith, and he says, now, I like it because Joshua's real, right? Joshua doesn't go, hey, let me tell you what God told me. God said, we're going to do this, and this is going to happen. No, he said, let's go today and let's march around the city one time. So he gives them bits and pieces of it, right? Because let's see what happens. I don't know. March around the city, and right. And so we learned some lessons from that. I'll just recap what we learned last week, right? About some keys to of faith when we're facing a wall. So the first one is this. The first one is trusting God's victory is certain, even when evil is winning. I think that's a lesson that we learn out of this. That, in other words, it's this idea. The Bible even says, God is for us and not against us, right? And God wants good things for us. That doesn't mean that problems aren't going to come, but God desires good things for us. And so trust that God's victory is certain, even when it seems that evil is winning. Certainly what Joshua faced, right? The second thing was this: trust that God's instruction is wise, even when it seems ridiculous. It's ridiculous to march around a city and think walls are going to come down. Told the story of me praying for a woman's feet. That sounds ridiculous. I'm not going to do that. Sometimes we have to need to trust, right? So think of just love, right? This morning I went down. This morning I was kind of not running too late, but running a little late. So I got online and I did my bagel order. Bagels out there. I did it online, and it said they'll be ready in 10 minutes. Well, it takes me 15 minutes to get there. I get there, I walk up, and they're not there. And then there's 4 people in line. I'm thinking, holy smokes, and I'm looking, I look at a thing, I see the ticket sitting there, and I know it's my ticket, right? I'm sitting there waiting because the bagels weren't ready. So now I got to wait. So now I'm sitting, I had a choice, right? I'm talking to myself. I have a choice here. Okay, what brilliant things can I say to her? You know what I mean? To make her feel small, I mean? I had all this kind of stuff. I thought, well, what a wrong attitude. What a wrong attitude. And so I sat there and I go, you know what, it's okay. I don't know what they've been through here, how busy they've been, what's been going on. I have no idea, right? All I'm thinking about is myself. So I thought, okay, I better have a good story to tell this morning. So I thought I'll, be good this morning. And so I was good to her and I was kind to her. And she apologized to me. I said, no problem. It's no problem at all. I had no problem waiting. Well, I lied a little bit. Of course, I did have a little problem waiting, but, right? But the point is, I didn't want to make her feel bad. I wanted to help her. I wanted to make her feel good. And so here's the thing. Just because progress in your life doesn't seem obvious at the time, doesn't mean things aren't happening. Doesn't mean that God's not working in your life. How about this? Some people see obstacles as a puzzle to solve, right? So, see an obstacle, hey, what can I do about this? Some see obstacles as an opportunity to grow. Others see obstacles as a threat. Now, I don't know how you see obstacles, but you need to kind of evaluate yourself and how do I see them? Others see obstacles as meaning they can't succeed. Obstacle, that's it. See, no point in going on. I can't do this. And here's a really important thought, and that's this, is that your view of obstacles is going to affect how you react to them. Your view of them. How do you view obstacles? Are they just a problem to solve for you? Well, when it comes along, you're going to react that way to it. If an obstacle, and you face an obstacle in your life, means that you think, I'm no good, or I can't do this, or why me, woe is me, that sort of thing. Well, it's going to affect how you react to it, how you view obstacles in your life. So if you view obstacles as the world being against you, right? What obstacle comes? Why me? Why always me? Anybody ever say that? No one's ever said. Gary, thank you. Me and you. We're the only ones that have ever said that. The rest of you people are so spiritual. It's unbelievable, right? Or meaning that you failed, right? Or you just become overwhelmed. You have painful thoughts, these negative emotions because they block your goals, all that kind of stuff, right? So let's talk about some practical steps now of how we can learn to overcome obstacles. Okay, you ready? Okay, put your seatbelts on, let's go. In your notes on the back, the first thing is this. We talked about this last week real quick. And that's remember the word stop. Stop. When you face an obstacle, remember the word stop. And the first S just means that, just stop, right? Just stop with the obstacle. Don't do anything crazy or whatever. You face an obstacle, just stop. The T is then take a step back. Take a step back from the obstacle. How many of you have ever thought about how when somebody comes to you with a problem as their problem, how easy it is for you to see things that they don't see, right? Isn't that true? You can start to talk to them about something. Well, what about that? Have you thought about this? No, I haven't thought about that. Yeah, well, maybe you should think about that. And you come to it with a kind of a clear head, not clouded by the problem, not clouded by, we're going to get to in a minute, the emotions and all that kind of stuff. And so you can see it. So one thing you can do is take a step back from yourself. Take a step back. I mean, you can even do it literally like I just did. Take a step back and then imagine yourself there with this problem and say, how would I advise, if this was a friend, how would I advise them in this problem by taking a step back? The O is, of course, I just kind of alluded to it. After you take a step back, observe. Observe what's going on, right? In the life of that person you took a step back from, who is you? You take a step back and you observe the situation, just like you would if it was a friend coming to you. And then the P is simply proceed mindfully. Mindfully. Now, I talked a little bit more about that last week. If you want to go back and look at that, you can. But taking a step back, and an important step is this. Take a step back and observe your emotions, right? Because obstacles are always going to elicit some sort of emotional response. Isn't that true? Right? It's going to elicit an emotional response from you. So you take a step back and then look at that, evaluate that emotion, right? Oftentimes, I'll see somebody react to something. I tell this Michelle all the time. Somebody reacts to something, and it's a huge reaction. And then, so you can do this for yourself too. It's a huge reaction. And I go, that reaction is not equal to the situation, right? It's not equal to the situation. So what does that tell you? That tells you that emotional response is due not just to that issue. There's something that underlies it. Isn't that right? I told the story of one time I was dealing with a realtor, and I was talking to her. We were doing some work on her apartment, and she came home all upset and everything. She said, I can't believe it. I had this deal. I was going to close it and everything, and they came in, and the cover plates were supposed to be changed. See a cover plate on a switch right there? Cover plate, those things cost like, under $1. I mean, they're like cheap. You buy them in a packet for like nothing. And so she canceled the whole deal. She was so mad. They weren't changed out. It was the wrong color, and she blew up, and she canceled the whole thing. And this realtor came back, and she said, I can't believe it. I'm so upset just with cover plates. And I go, you think it was about the cover plates? She goes, yeah, that's what she said. I go, it's not about the cover plates. Is her reaction to 49-cent cover plates, was it equal to that, her reaction, how upset she was? Was it equal to cover plates? And listen, I could go through that whole house and change everyone out in 15 minutes for under $5. So was the emotional reaction equal to that? No, it wasn't. That tells me there's something else. So you take a step back and look at your emotions. Say, what are my emotions equal to this? What's going on, right? And so you evaluate, and so you look at that. And so, and I look and I say, observe the obstacle as you would if it was someone else who was facing it. And then talk to yourself. Give yourself some advice like you would do. Okay, now let's move on. B, that was last week. This is all new now. You ready? Here we go. B is practice acceptance. Practice acceptance. Let me tell you what I mean by that. John 16:33 says this, I have told you these things so that in me you may have peace. In this world, pay attention to these two next words, you will have trouble. You will have trouble. In other words, let's say it like this. I'm telling you this so you can have peace, because in this world you're going to face obstacles. You're just going to face them. You're going to face obstacles. But take heart, I have overcome the world. Take heart. What's that mean, take heart? We don't use that saying, right? It just means this. It means be courageous. Maybe it means this, regain your courage. And I love this phrase. And I kind of, when I face difficult times and I face challenges and obstacles, whether I'm overwhelmed by it or whatever at the time, one phrase I always repeat to myself, the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. And that's just getting encouraged. Say, listen, I can get through this obstacle, this challenge, whatever it is, and the best is yet to come. And then there's this phrase, I have overcome the world. And I believe this, I believe in him that we can overcome the world. But what does that really mean? And I think it means this. I think it means that we don't have to be controlled by the circumstances that surround us in our world. We don't have to be we experience them, but we don't have to be controlled by them. Man, a great secret that you could learn in life is learn how to live above your circumstances, above them. Have you met people like this? I know people like this. And there's no reason why they should, no practical reason why they should be happy, why they should be joyful, why they should be encouraged. I bet you have this problem, you have that problem. I can mention some names that are in this building right now that live that way. I look, oh, wow, but you have that problem, you have that problem, you have that problem. How are you like that? They live above their circumstances. Above their circumstances. I know people that have great circumstances and they live below their circumstances. And it's a choice that we make in our life to do that. And so these things I think will help us to do that. So whatever goal you want to achieve, you should, whatever it is, however you want to do it, you should include the idea of overcoming obstacles. So whatever you want to do, right, plan on it. Now, you can't plan on what the obstacle is going to be, but you can plan on the fact that I'm going to have them. And then you can embrace them when they come. And so what I'm saying is accept them. Not thinking that I have this goal, I want to achieve this, and it's going to go smooth, nothing's going to happen. I face an obstacle, see, right? No. When it comes, go, okay, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this challenge, right? And I accept it as part of the process of achieving the goal that I want. So it's part of the process. Okay, I still want to achieve that. Okay, part of it is overcoming this. Can't wait, right? Can't wait to do it. Can't wait to figure this out. That's a problem to be solved. And so the first thing is that we accept them. I have my office in there. I think they think maybe Oscar Wilde or George Bernard Shaw said this. I'm sure you've heard it before, but I think of this too. It says this: what's worse than not getting what you want? The answer is getting what you want. In other words, like just everything is coming your way. Just keep getting what you want, getting what you want, getting what you want. That's not a good thing. It's actually good for us to face obstacles, to learn, to grow, and so we need to accept them. All right? How about C? C is this, and we talked about this in the stop, and that's this: notice your emotions. When you face an obstacle, undoubtedly you're going to have an emotion, and that's normal, no problem. But we can take a break, and I think it's important to even learn how to soothe yourself, right? Because what happens is, and you all know this is true because we all experience it, you have this emotion, and it happens a lot of times between husbands and wives. You know, you have an emotion, and maybe where you're at you can't express it or whatever, and so you suppress it. And then you get home in a safe environment, and then you unload it and you let it out. And Michelle, we'll have a fight about something, and she said, "Well, what happened to you today?" You know what I mean? And I hate when she's right. Don't you hate that? I hate that when she's right. And I said, nothing happened. I can't believe you, whatever. And so, but I stop and I think, oh yeah, that's exactly right. So the problem is I didn't deal with my emotions. So step back for a minute and observe your emotion and soothe yourself a little bit. I go, okay, well, that's my emotion, and learn to deal with it. You follow me? I mean, this is a simple step. I'm not going to do much into it because I have a little bit more, not more important, but some other things I want to really share. So D is this. D is, so when you do that, and now it's you're in an emotional state, and you try to soothe it, the next thing to do is to allow wisdom to prevail. Proverbs 4, 6, and 7 says this: do not forsake wisdom, and she will protect you. Love her, and she will watch over you. Wisdom is supreme. Therefore, get wisdom. I love this last line. Listen to this. Though it cost you all you have, get understanding. So what we want to do is, when we face obstacles, we want to make decisions about obstacles with a wise mind. A wise mind. And that's why the first step is to deal with your emotions. Because, listen, some of us are more emotionally bent than others, right? And so a lot of us that are emotionally bent like that, we make decisions based on emotions, right? And I know you know what I'm talking about. Some of you who are the emotional one. Listen, it's not that's a bad thing. People who are more emotionally bent, they have other tendencies, other gifts and stuff like that. But making decisions through obstacles, through emotions, can get you into trouble. An emotional mind, listen up. An emotional mind might urge you just to quit, right? This is too hard. I'm just going to quit. Or it may oftentimes for me, it makes me act impulsively. I often use the same story in here because it's so true about me. I'm checking out a grocery store or a store. Everything that's right there. You know who that's for? That's for me. That's for impulsive buyers. And I kid you not, I use this one example all the time because I actually did it. I'm standing there and there was a water bottle that had a battery in it with a fan on it. I go, I need one of those. And I was like, what? That's brilliant. Who thought of that? So you spray like this and it blows the oh, I need one of those. I bought it. I never used it my entire life, but I bought it. Right? So you need to know you, right? You need to know you, and so acting impulsively is due to succumbing to those emotions, right? So, remember the T? Stop. Just stop. And take a step back. The S is stop, T is take a step back. And that gives you a moment then, right? A moment then to look at your emotions. Your wise mind, not your emotional mind, your wise mind can take in new information. Your emotional mind is not going to usually take in new information. Does that make sense? So we need to let wisdom prevail. And so when you take in new information, you can then be flexible to look at alternatives, and also be creative in your thinking to solutions. So I heard this a while ago, and I don't know who said it. I forget who said it, but it's become my own now. Jeff said, that's a joke. You can laugh. Is this, I tell my boys all the time, when you want to, and you should write this down if you haven't heard this. You should write this down. The first thing you should do is when you have to make a decision about something, right? And to get into your wise mind. Now, the first step is asking the questions, and you'll do that a lot before you ever start acting on the results. The first one is this. Based on my past experiences, so you have something you're trying to make a decision about. So I go, okay, based on my past experiences, what's the wisest thing to do, right? So based on my past experiences. So the next thing is, based on my current situation, what's the wisest thing to do? Now, if you're old like me, you have a lot of past experiences to draw on. Now you have your current situation. And the last one, especially for young people, is this. Based on your future hopes and dreams, what's the wisest thing to do? Because isn't it true, we can make bad decisions, we can make good decisions, we can make great decisions. But the reality is what we want to make is a wise decision. Not even good or great, but a wise one. And so let's take Steve, for example. Let's say Steve, and he was single. He used to go with his buddies down to Mardi Gras every single year, right? Every single year. They come from all over the country to meet at Mardi Gras, and they party down there for a week. And then Steve gets married. And then they're married, him and Michelle are newly married, and it's Mardi Gras time. Buddies call him, hey, we're going to Mardi Gras, are you coming? Steve says, well, based on my past experiences, right, Mardi Gras, based on my current situation, I'm married now, based on my future hopes and dreams, I want to stay married. Maybe that's not the wisest thing for me to do right now. You follow me? And so you think you evaluate your life that way. And so you let wisdom, you allow it to prevail. E is this. E is find meaning in the situation. Find meaning, another way to put it, in other words, learning. Someone once said this, the capacity to learn is a gift. The ability to learn is a skill. The willingness to learn is a choice. So when we experience difficult situations, they're certainly going to be uncomfortable. But at the same time, you can often find meaning in the experience, and you can learn from it. So maybe some questions to ask yourself is this. Through this experience, through this obstacle, through this challenge, what lesson can I learn from this? How can I add to my life because of this, or add to my understanding about life, about my life, about the situation? How can I add to it? And then, what do I do with this new information? Okay, F. F is this. See my exclamation points there? Okay. Ask for help. Ask for help. Proverbs 12:15 says this, the way of a fool seems right to him. The way of a fool seems right to him. But the wise listen to advice. Listen to advice. The Bible also says there's safety in the counsel of many. Now, some of us are already okay. Now, you may be good at some of these and not so good at others. You have to kind of see for yourself. There are people that just will not ask for help. A fool will say, it's my way or the highway. Isn't that right? So, one thing about that I've learned through my time with Wycliffe is this, and I wrote this down because this is one thing that I always said, is asking for ideas from others is actually an interpersonal skill. It's actually a skill. To learn how to do that, to learn how to find the right people to ask, learn how to ask the right questions, the proper questions to elicit the advice that you're looking for. It's actually interpersonal skill. So I thought, what are reasons that keep us from asking for help? I don't know about women, but for guys, one of the big things is this. Somehow if I ask for help, it means that I'm less, right? And pride gets in the way. I can't ask for help. So men, we don't ask for directions. I'll find my way, right? And so I think that we need to realize, the things that hold us back from doing it. So it takes some time to evaluate yourself. What kind of person am I? We did early on with the church, with the leadership team, we did a personal inventory. And it's so interesting how when you do this personal inventory, you look at it and it's called the Myers-Briggs. Have you heard of Myers-Briggs? Myers-Briggs is probably one of the better ones. And it gives you a personality, and I'm a ENFP, and so we're looking at it, and so it tells you about your strengths and your weaknesses and stuff like that. And so look at it, and this one particular person will go, I don't think this test really works because this isn't me. And we all looked and we go, what are you? I'm not going to mention Pete's name, but you say, what are you talking about? That's exactly. Oh, that's not me at all. No, that's exactly you. Like spot on, like everything, all the strengths, all the weaknesses, absolutely. And I know because it's me too. Right? And so to be able to, because it's easy to see it in someone else, isn't it? To see it in yourself, it's difficult. It's difficult. So learn how to take a step back. Right, boss? I mean, it's me and you. There's no question. And so here's the thing. We think that it'll reflect on us negatively somehow if we ask for help or if we need help. Somehow men think they shouldn't need help. They should be able to do everything themselves, which is absolutely ridiculous. Or maybe the problem doesn't seem like it warrants getting help for. And that goes back to the first one. I should be able to do this. I'm not going to ask for help because I could figure this out myself. Or maybe it's just this, maybe it's simply this. I wouldn't even know what kind of help to get or where to get this help from or what kind of help is available. Or maybe the problem's embarrassing. Maybe you just don't like talking about your feelings, whatever it is, right? Learn those things about you and then figure out how you can overcome those things, an obstacle to overcome, so that you can ask for help. And here's some truths, okay? So, and that's always a good thing to do, is look at what's actually true. And so, is it true that others are likely to have resources for this problem that you don't have? Is that true? That's definitely a distinct possibility, right? They could have resources that you're not even aware of. So you ask them, oh man, I have a book just on that. Really? I never imagined. And so they might have resources that you don't even know. Or maybe they have ideas that you haven't thought of. Now, we all know the saying, there's more than one way to skin a cat. And so maybe you're stuck in one way because it's the only way you've ever done it. So you ask and you get ideas. There's no shame in that. Matter of fact, it's a sign of wisdom. And the other thing is this. You have to understand that you see the world in a certain way, and that makes you react to that world in that way. Someone else sees the world in a different way. And that's simple, isn't it? They see the world differently. And so like when I lived overseas, Tony, right? I lived overseas, my African friends over there, they see the world completely different. It's funny, there's this term we always used over there called it Afro-engineering. Because they would fix things in ways that I wouldn't even dream of fixing. But they say that what's the necessity is the mother of invention. right? And so they can't run down to the auto parts store to fix their car. So they're creating these ways of fixing that. I never, ever would have thought of, fixing that with, it's kind of like a MacGyver kind of thing, a paper clip and duct tape, you fix your transmission. How in the world, I wouldn't even think to do something like that. So you're a worldview. So my point is this: don't be afraid to ask. Other people have different views of how the world even works. So G is this. We'll go on. G is, and also too, ask more than one person, right? Ask a lot of people. G is set small, achievable goals. I love this. Listen to this passage of scripture real quick before you write anything. This is in Zechariah. And there was this leader of the Israelites. His name was Zerubbabel. And so he was like the leader, right? And so this passage said this: do not despise these small beginnings. Don't despise small beginnings. It says this: the Lord rejoices to see the work begin, to see the plumb line of Zerubbabel's hand. So he shouldn't be out there laying stone, right? He's the leader. He said, but the Lord rejoices in seeing that. The small beginnings, he's out there with a plumb line, right? He doesn't need to be doing that. And so you have to learn that start small. Start with the most simplest thing. Pete and I always talk about that with a car. Car breaks down. Start with the simplest thing, right? No matter how stupid it sounds. Hey, my car stopped on the road. It won't go. Oh my gosh, your transmission or this or that. No. Is there gas in the car? I know it sounds stupid, right? It sounds simple. But, start there. Oh, yeah. Maybe just the battery terminal came. Well, how would that happen? I don't know. Maybe it came loose somehow. And just start small. Right? And don't despise those small things. How many times have things been fixed by doing that? And so when you have a difficulty, an obstacle, a challenge, start small. Start with something that I can this if you look at it as a whole, this big thing like learning a language. Oh, I'd love to learn a language, but I put on a movie in German the other day and I didn't understand anything, right? Of course you're not going to understand anything. Put on like that. So you set small, achievable goals. Start with could you learn a word of German a day? Yeah. What's that going to help me? It's a small goal. It's achievable. And you do it. And you'll feel good about it. You learn one word. And so you learn this process to help you overcome this. H is this. H is, this is so important in so many areas of life, and that's this: often, and I can't stress that word enough, often reevaluate. Reevaluate. Why is that? Well, one thing is you're going to change, right? You ever read a book 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and read it now? Wow, what a difference, huh? Has the book changed? The book hasn't changed. You've changed. That's why I tell people, they come to faith and they have this idea about God and they learn something early on in their life in their 20s and now they're in their 50s and they're stuck in this one thing. I think, you need to think differently. You've changed. Yeah, but God hasn't changed. Yeah, God hasn't changed. But you've changed in how you see it, right? Well, I can go on and on about that. I'm not going to beat that drum. But listen, if you often reevaluate, right? So you look at your challenges, right? Let's say this. Let's say, what do I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. And examples are always better. Let's say you have a goal to get in shape, right? And you say, I'm going to get in shape. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and I'm going to run 2 miles every other day. And so you go and you do that. I said, that's my goal. That's what I'm going to do. And you get out there and you start running and you realize, man, I hate this. Running is boring. Maybe that's you. I know it's not Maria, right? But running is boring. So what you do is, now, the goal is still to get in shape, right? So you reevaluate, go, okay, that's boring. I like competition. What if I played racquetball? So you try racquetball and you go, hey, this works. And you're running and you're getting in shape, right? So be willing to often reevaluate. So the problem is you get into an obstacle and you start beating this one path, trying to get down there, and you keep hitting wall after wall after wall, nothing's working. Well, so you stop and you reevaluate. Maybe I need to come in a different direction. I'm going to try something different. And so we often reevaluate. Luke 16:10 says this. I'm sorry. No, that was another text there I was going to read before, but let's move on. So often reevaluate. 1 Thessalonians says this, but test everything. In other words, what's that? Reevaluate. Test everything. Someone says, well, why don't you try this? Okay, I'll try it. Let's try it. And then you test it. And it says this, and hold fast to what is good. So testing, okay, that didn't work for me. The running thing didn't work for me. Right? I tested, I tried it. That just didn't work for me. Maybe you tried racquetball. That didn't work for me either. You try something else. You keep trying. Maybe you get a stationary bike. I like this. I like that. So you're constantly testing. You're constantly reevaluating. I'm so glad my friend Mac is here because this is his favorite passage. He has no idea where it's at in the Bible, but it's his favorite passage, right, Mac? Let me tell you, this is this right here. I'm just kidding. He knows where it's at. It's in Philippians. This is Paul. He says, I know what it is to be in need. Anybody ever been there? I know what it is to be in need. But I also know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. In other words, what he's saying is, whether I'm in need or whether I'm well-fed, I've learned the secret to live above my circumstances, right? Because knowing that the plenty, that could go away. The need's not, living in need is not going to be forever. I've learned to live above that. I learned the secret of that. Whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. So the issue isn't about what you have, whether living above it, because he says this. So I can do all things through him who gives me strength. So when you're in plenty, don't let that get to your head. Don't let that be the end all and be all. Don't let that be, well, now I can be happy or whatever. Live above that. That's just stuff. I can do all things. Matter of fact, I can keep a good perspective on my life and on the world, even when I have plenty. I don't have to think, oh man, I'm right, because some people get plenty and they think they're better than others, and they think they're right. I watch TV. I don't know about you, and you see these sports stars that have all this money, and they're talking about politics. And I go, what? Why should I listen to you about politics? Because you have money, right? They got money. They think they could talk about anything, right? And then he's saying, I've learned the secret to be content in any and all situations. This is a great scripture. The last thing is this. Connie, come on up. Connie and where's Brock? Brock and Tony too? Yeah, come on up. They're going to come up. They're going to send us off with a little song. They're not going to sing it. They're just going to play it for me. And this is how good they are. I said this morning to them. I said, I wish I had talked to you guys earlier because I wanted this song. And they started working on it, and we'll see how it's going to be. I think where's Brock? Is Brock coming? The last thing is this. The last thing is, listen, learn how to celebrate. Celebrate. Recognize that your accomplishments, no matter how small they are so very, very important. Celebrate all the small steps that you take. This helps. What does this help you do? It helps you stay motivated. Hey, I want to read to you a passage of scripture. Most certainly you've never heard it preached. I guarantee you've never heard it preached. Without a doubt, you've never heard it preached. You may have never even read it. Okay, but I want to share it with you. I love this. This is fantastic. So you know how we take an offering here to continue the work here, right? It's an offering. A box back there, a kiosk out there. Love for you to participate in the ministry that we do here and help us out financially, so we can have the lights on. We can have a nice, it's nice and warm in here. Like we need that. We can't do that without that, right? But one way that people try to get it is they go to this term called a tithe. You ever heard that term? A tithe. And who's heard it? Raise your hand if you've heard that term. Tithe. What's it mean? 10%, right? Tithe means 10%, right? And it's 10% of your money, right? All that kind of stuff. Well, I think not.
No.
I think not. So let me read to you from Deuteronomy. Be sure to set aside a tenth of all your fields produce each year. How many of you have fields? You planting stuff out there? Verse 23. Eat. Everybody say eat. Eat. Eat the tithe of your grain. Eat the tithe of your grain. New wine and olive oil. And the firstborn of your, not your firstborn, let me finish. The firstborn of your herds and flocks in the presence of the Lord your God. Listen, at the place he will choose as a dwelling for his name. Jerusalem, right? Come on, Brock. He's standing back there. He doesn't want to miss a word that I say. That's the way my son is. At the place he will choose as a dwelling for his name. So that you may learn to revere the Lord your God always. Now listen. But if that place is too distant, and you have been blessed by the Lord your God and cannot carry your tithe. So the first thing I want you to know, tithe was never in the Old Testament, never, not one time, was it money. They had money, it was never money. You follow me? It was never money. I don't want you ever to feel guilty, make someone let you feel guilty about something that's not biblical at all. And so if you have too much stuff, if the Lord has blessed you and you have a lot of stuff, you have a lot of sheep, you have a lot of goats, you have a lot of grain, right? And you cannot carry it because you have so much. And the place that he chose for you to take it, right, the temple, is too far away. I can't take all my stuff there. So he says to do this. Then exchange your tithe. Everybody say tithe. Tithe. Exchange your tithe for guess what? Money. So tithe isn't money. It's not your coin in your pocket. It's not your dollars in your wallet. Exchange your tithe for silver. And take the silver with you when you go to the place the Lord your God will choose, where he is. And it says this, use the silver, when you get there, use the silver to buy whatever you like. Cattle, sheep, wine, other fermented drink, those of you who are beer drinkers, or anything that you wish. Then you and your household shall celebrate the tithe and eat there in the presence of God and rejoice. And then it says this, then it goes on to say, and don't neglect the Levites, those are the priests who they're in your towns, who have no allotment or inheritance of their own. In other words, the Levites weren't allowed to own land. And the only way to have money in that time, and to have things, was to have land. So you can grow things, you could have that. And they couldn't do that. So one of the things they would do is to take care of the Levites. My point is this, what I love about this is, even this idea of the tithe, we're meant to celebrate. Isn't that awesome? And what are you celebrating? You're celebrating this idea that it's God who's it's all your perspective. It's God who's my provider. It's God who's my provider. And I take it, and he says, and celebrate that. Celebrate that. Now, I think in the New Testament, Paul gives some clear ideas about helping, your local congregation, right? The Bible says, Paul says, at the beginning of the week, set aside a sum of money in keeping with your income. You decide, right? The Bible says to decide in your heart what you will give. And so you do, and you support the work, just like you support other things, like we support, missionaries or whatever. And it says on the first day of the week, it sounds kind of systematic, doesn't it? First day of the week. Maybe you get paid once a month. Well, that's systematic, right? Set aside a sum of money. What is that? I don't know. Decide in your heart what it's going to be. Set aside a sum of money. And I love this part, in keeping with your income. Your income goes up, guess what? The sum that you set aside should probably do what?
Go up.
Go up. Your income goes down? Now, I guarantee you'll never hear another preacher say this to you. Your income goes down? Guess what? Your giving goes down. Right? What you'll hear is, you give out of your need. No, you give more than, because God's gonna take care. Come on, how can you appeal to someone's greed to be free and give and help? I'm beating another dead horse here. Okay, so let me pray, and then we're going to go out with this song Hopefully you'll recognize it. Maybe they'll sing a line or two. Let me just pray real quick. Father, thank you so much for your word. It's just so rich. If we just look at it and dig in, and how pertinent it is, how good it is for our life, for us to live this life better every single day, to be the best version of ourselves that we can be. It's all right here. It's what you desire for us to be as we love you, as we love others. So God, we thank you for that. Now as everybody leaves, they'll leave with this song about celebrating, and maybe we just have a fantastic day together.